I went through a phase once of washing up
Oh
liquid,
yeah,
squirting some washing up liquid on it.
I think that's a false friend.
Is that like a
Yeah,
Reddit
I
tale
agree.
where people say
It
use
just makes
this and
everything
actually
slippy.
it's the washing, it's the fairy
Yeah.
liquid lobby making us buy more washing up liquid.
Hello and welcome to Off the Back, the fifth episode of Off the Back, the podcast from Cycling Weekly. I'm Adam Beckett, news editor, and with me today are Tom Davidson, senior news and features writer, and Andy, our tech editor. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm good, Adam. Nice to see you again. I've been busy riding this weekend because we've had some sunshine at last. So I managed to get out on a Cannondale XCR at the weekend, which is a pretty special bike. It's 3D printed and made of stainless steel. So I've been loving that since I last saw you.
That's fun. I can't get out of my head the countdown that the software that we use to record this podcast uses to kind of go into it, because I can just think of like the TT start gate, and I've always wanted to talk to a commissaire about how they do the countdown like that. It always fascinates me. But there we go. Tom, you've been in the thick of racing this weekend just gone. You were in Manchester. Tell us why.
Yeah, I've done the opposite of going out on my bike, and I've stayed inside with no sunlight in a very warm velodrome. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's last time I was on this podcast, I spoke way too long about track cycling. I intend to do the same now. So to Adam and Andy, you need to interrupt me if this goes on for too long, this bit.
To be clear, it was the British National Track Championships. Tom just wasn't hanging around in a velodrome.
The premier event of the British track cycling calendar, might I add. Yeah, it was a great week. We had upsets, we had unexpected winners, we had expected winners. The upsets came in the individual pursuits. We had two world champions beaten quite narrowly. Josie Knight won, who people will remember for breaking the individual pursuit world record at the European Championships, of course. She won the individual pursuit by a second against Anna Morris, the world champion. Clean sweeps in the sprint events for Emma Finucane and Matthew Richardson. Which that's our expected winners, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was a bit of an exhibition from both of them. And unexpected winners, we had Erin Boothman, 18-year-old, who schooled a couple of Olympic medalists in the elimination race to win her first individual senior elite national title. So that came on the last day. So it was kind of all building up to this moment where we had this big surprise winner, and the crowds loved it.
For listeners that don't know, Emma Finucane and Matthew Richardson are a couple. So it's, it wasn't just a successful solo national championships, it was a successful couple national championships. And
well, they live together in a house in suburban Manchester, and I was asking them kind of how big their house is, because I was slightly concerned because they've just taken home quite the haul of medals, national jerseys, but also every winner got given this kind of laser cut wooden bee statue thing. And even one of them would have been enough in the house. And they've got this swarm of 6 of them now that they've had to find somewhere for. So I was asking them afterwards. Emma said it's going to go on the toolbox in the basement. Matthew Richardson said that there might not be room there. So, keep your ears to the ground on that one to find out where they go.
Andy, have you ever cycled on a track?
I have, yeah. I used to have a little cycling club and went to the velodrome in Stratford when it first opened. We booked it for the day for £350, and 20 of us went, and we had an absolute blast. I personally hated it. I didn't get on with it at all. I just couldn't get used to the idea that my wheels were moving on the boards underneath me. I don't know if I was just in a bad mood, but I didn't take to it immediately.
It was that sounds pretty affordable. I can't imagine it being that cheap these days. That's like
they did
less than 20 quid each.
Yeah, they did a special offer for, I think it was around the participation requirements that they had after the Olympics. They had to open it up to clubs at a reasonable price.
Sure.
And at the time, there was a fleet of Condor track bikes, and we had 2 instructors for the day. It was really, really brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, really good.
And Tom, you have history with the Lee Valley Velo Park that we won't get into again here.
Yeah, I failed my track accreditation there quite miserably. So and I've not returned since. But I'm surprised they let me into velodromes at all nowadays. But they don't let me on the boards themselves because I have, quote, been judged to be a danger to junior and youth riders. So
you just hang around in the track centre.
Yeah, and as soon as I get near, the coach that failed me comes out of the sky and shoos me away.
But moving on from the velodrome though, Andy, you had a busy week last week with not one but two separate launches from Cannondale. I mean, it feels like a while ago now because I think it was last Tuesday, wasn't it? But tell us a bit more about the new Super 6 and the Super Slice.
Yes, so we're heading into the season, so there'll be a raft of launches coming through now. But Cannondale took the relatively unusual move to launch two bikes on the same day. So they had the Super Slice, which is their TT frame,
which also sounds like a pizza.
It does, and it actually has a slice of pizza hidden in the fork crown, or did have it hidden in the fork crown. It's pretty cool. You turn the steering and you can see the pizza slice. The pizza slice is on the new bike. It's under the bottom bracket. So it's still
is it? Sorry, so that's genuine. That's not a joke.
Yeah. The pizza slice is an actual thing. Yeah.
Okay. No, but I assume it's not an actual slice of real food pizza. What is it? A slice? What's the slice?
I think slice is some sort of metaphor for cutting through the wind, perhaps, Tom.
Okay.
But there's a little engraved pizza thing.
It's a. Do you know the Santa Cruz graphics from the 90s? The skaters. Yeah, there was an artist that did a load of sort of cool art like that, and it's sort of in that style. It's very derivative of that style, and it's quite a cool little emblem. I imagine if you've got one, you're one of the few people that have got them because there weren't many available in the UK. You don't see them very often, but I think it's a kind of, if you love that bike, you love that logo, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that the Cannondale Super Slice is the bike that I ride regularly.
I don't think it is a very specialist bike. The more likely one that you're likely to have come across is the Super 6, and that is their archetypal road race bike. So that's the competitor to the Tarmac SL8. It's the equivalent to the Giant TCR. And they have taken a rather unusual decision with that to essentially, whilst you'll have seen in the Tour this year, the Y1RS from Colnago and Jonas on the Cervelo S5, they kind of left their climbing bikes in the truck. They thought the aero ones were faster and that was going to give them more advantage. So the climbing bike seems like a bit of a dying breed, but Cannondale have doubled down on it. They've done away with the System 6, which is their very slippery aero road bike, and they're just going all in on this new version of the Super 6, which doesn't look markedly different to the old one. There is quite a lot of work that's gone into apparently every tube and the layup, and they've saved quite a lot of weight, but they're really doubling down on that one bike to rule them all type approach, which is super interesting as we go into the season, because there'll be people that have made decisions to get rid of their aero platform and they're sort of taking the penalty, if you like. They're not going to save the extra watts, and then there'll be people like Colnago, Team UAE, Cervelo, with Visma, who will be doubling down on that aero platform. So it's going to be really interesting to watch.
EF, of course, one of the two teams, the men's World Tour teams, that haven't won a bike race yet this year. So, if that's correlation, not causation, but that might be something to watch out for as the season goes on.
I didn't see that in the marketing materials for the new Cannondale bikes.
It's not. I mean, the strategy isn't crazy. It does sound a little bit odd when you spell it out like that, especially with the speeds raising. They're optimizing bikes now for speeds of 50 kilometers per hour, which is bonkers, much faster than any of us go. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The specialized Tarmac SL8, which is quite slippery but isn't really designed as an aero bike, that's still the most winningest, if that's a word, bike in the Pro Tour.
You've made it one now anyway, Andy.
Yeah, I think it's
Tom.
You can win races on those things for sure. So
Tom, do you know the other men's World Tour team that is yet to win a bike race this year?
I think it's Picnic Postanel, because I think I read it in your column this week, Adam. Is that true?
It is Picnic Postanel, yeah. There are a couple more on the women's side. Interestingly, Visma Lisa Bike, the women's team, that is, not the men's team, haven't won a bike race yet this season.
Okay.
Which is interesting because they were dominant at times last year, but there haven't been that many women's races yet this year. There's been quite a few more men's races, it should be said.
We'll give them a few more weeks before we sound the alarm bells.
Exactly. But talking of racing, we had quite the week of stage races last week. There was racing in Portugal and France and Spain and the UAE. Juan Ayuso won in Portugal, of course, at the Volta ao Algarve.
This is a real memory test for you now, Adam.
This is a real memory test for me. Ivan Romeo won the Ruta del Sol, the Vuelta a Andalucía in Spain, and the UAE Tour was obviously won by Isaac Del Toro. The team's 13th win of the year so far, just underlining the financial strength and the strength and depth of that team. But Tom, you wanted to talk about another UAE rider because Tadej Pogacar, it turns out, is being kind of protected on training rides in Spain.
Yeah, this comes off the back of the story of Jonas Vingegaard crashing when he was being... I think it was kind of portrayed that he was being chased by an amateur on a descent. I don't know if it was as kind of scary as that or what happened, how related the two were, but he was being followed by amateur cyclists, and we've now seen that Tadej Pogacar is apparently training in a bubble. So there are motorbikes, there are team members flocking around him to protect him, to make kind of like, when you see a celebrity ushered into a limousine. That's how I sort of imagine it. This is not a new phenomenon. Last August, Tadej Pogacar was spotted wearing "Do Not Disturb" jerseys. These had a graphic of a big camera with a big red stripe through it, like you get in art galleries. He now actually sells these jerseys on his shop for €100, and I think it's a bit mixed signals for fans to say, come buy this jersey, but also stay away from me and leave me alone. Ironically, the print is also so small on these jerseys that you have to get very close up to him to realize what it says.
It is hard to think of a more recognizable cyclist, though. I mean, he's in the World Champions jersey as well. So it's you can understand why they're a little bit scared of... Scared is maybe the wrong word, but nervous about people getting too close all the time, because it must be hard to get away from. I don't know if people flock around you, Andy, when you're cycling along, but
no,
it can't be fun.
Not these days. But yeah, I suppose the analogy would be, who bothers us when we're at work? Nobody really. And they are at work and they have to train on the public roads. So I've always taken the view that if I see somebody... I saw Chris Froome once traveling up Col de Montgenèvre, where he used to live, and I was on my way home. We knew he was in the area. We'd been trying to spot him really all week, hoping that we'd spot him. And then on my way home, we didn't have any guests with us. So I just followed him up the hill. He was really tired on a TT bike, so I had to hang back, which is just, kind of felt great. I was hanging back to let Chris Froome go, but I gave him loads of space, and I just feel like, the guy's at work, leave him to it.
Yeah,
you don't want to be that guy that ruins his day.
You do not. You really do not. Especially as just one little interaction could, I mean, not that you're going to cause anyone to crash, but just anything just might. Yeah, you're on a bike on a road. Like it's not like sterile conditions, is it?
There's also an element to this that I find a bit funny, which is the idea of people following pros on bikes. Now, maybe I'm speaking for myself and my speed on a bike, but there is not a very long time I'd be able to follow a pro for. Like, if I was going out on my bike, the pro is seeing me. They don't know I'm there. It's very fleeting, and they're off into the distance. So it's a big issue, I think, on descents. Andy, I wasn't aware that you were able to keep up with Chris Froome on climbs. That's very impressive. I don't know if other people are generally that strong to... I mean, if I saw Tadej Pogacar on a bike ride, I think I'd be able to hold his wheel for 3 seconds maximum, and then I've blown up.
My friends cycled out to the tumble stage of the Tour of Britain this year. I think stage 5 maybe, from Bristol to the middle of Wales, and on their way home they were all, I don't know, 90 kilometers into this 120 kilometer ride, including the tumble, which for them, was a decent ride. And past them rode Remco Evenepoel on his TT bike with his gold shoes on, just going like triple their speed. And they tried to get on the back, and obviously no one got anywhere close, because it just like, you could just hit, the noise that... Yeah, no chance. Absolutely no chance.
Yeah, but it goes without saying that if you are in the minority of people that when Remco Evenepoel flies past you in South Wales, is that where the tumble is?
Yeah.
Then give him some space.
Andy, tell us a bit more about these smart tyre levers.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much people will know, but we spend quite a lot of our time obsessing over traffic for various different things, and you would expect a big bike review like the Cannondale Super 6 or something such like to go crazy. But what went crazy this week was a humble tyre lever. And I think it might be because, one, the tyre lever is very, very good. But two, it solves a problem that is relevant to every single cyclist on the planet. And we're all either terrified of the idea of getting a puncture, or even if we're good at fixing them, still somewhat frustrated sometimes by various combinations, getting tyres on, getting them off, getting covered in sealant, all that sort of stuff. It really struck a nerve. There's a chap called Mark Searle that runs the company that came up with the idea. It's a patented design that enables you to get under the tyre and get the bead off. But then importantly, when you put it back on, there's a little hook that clips into the rim and a little roller, and you push it along the side of the tyre, and it essentially just helps you push that bead into place. And it is a real dundle. We didn't expect it to be as useful as it is. It's quite complicated to work out initially, but once you've got the hang of it, it's really, really good.
Tom, how are you at getting a tyre on and off?
Look, there was a time, I would say 7 years ago, where I would go to the shop and I would buy 3 or 4 inner tubes, knowing that the first 2 were going to get holes in them from me putting the tyre back on. I'm now down to, I can do it first time now, but I'm not that confident in it. I live in fear every time I put the tyre levers under that there's going to be a pinch and then suddenly I've lost my 6-7 pounds on my inner tube. But otherwise, I'm okay. I've got a very good pair of tyre levers that I got for Christmas one year, and they have done me good. The ones I was using before were just like metal ones, and it's essentially, you might as well just do it with 2 sharp knives at that point, which is what it felt like. But now, I've got it down to a T, and I do think I realise, look, a good worksman doesn't blame his tools, but as Andy says, the tools make a very big difference when they are tyre levers.
Well, in that case, it might be the application of the tools, because if you can get away without using a lever to put the tyre back on, you're not in any danger of pinching the tube. As long as you've made sure it's in the tyre, you can't see any of it poking out. Try and get away with not using the tyre lever.
You just need to do some thumb exercises, Tom, because it's all that bit.
Yeah.
It's that
you know what? When you were explaining that, I was wondering if you were inferring that my thumb strength was inferior, and to that I say I have absolutely no doubts that it is inferior. So
there's one of these barriers to cycling things, isn't it? You've got to have strong thumbs to fix a puncture. That's not necessarily true. It's about technique. So if you've got both beads, if you've got the bead in the middle of the tyre, the very central bit of the tyre, and just keep checking it's there, then you should find, if you've got a good combination of tyre and rim, and they're not all good, you should be able to do it with your thumbs without making them bleed or giving yourself blisters. And it should be relatively straightforward.
I went through a phase once of washing up liquid, squirting some washing up liquid on it.
I think that's a false friend.
Is that like a Reddit tale where people say use
it just
this?
Makes everything slippy.
It's the fairy liquid lobby making us buy more washing up liquid.
You might be kind of losing already if you've gone to the kitchen and grabbed the fairy liquid, and if you have used the fairy liquid, then it's very slippery, and it's
beyond using this very exciting tyre lever, which we should be really talking about. The thing I've learned about punctures is just kind of keep going back to the beginning of the tyre and just pinching it and making sure you've got all the room. You're giving yourself enough rope so that when you get to the top bit. Sorry, this is a podcast. We're doing very visual guides. But if you're kind of making sure the bead is flexible all the way around, then by the time you got to the top, you can just go. And the feeling when you get the bead in, I get a flat just to do that.
That's the reward.
It comes down to practice ultimately. But if you're practicing so hard you've ruined your fingers, it's really hard to do it again or even face it. So there is a bit of perseverance.
It should be said that. Probably in about your timeline, Tom, about 7 years ago, I would just be taking my wheel to a bike shop every time and saying, please.
Yeah, look, the trick is, don't listen to what we're saying. Ride home on the rim and take it into a bike shop to get it.
And the look on their face when you say, can you replace this inner tube? And they're like, come on, mate.
they say yes, we can replace the inner tube, and also you need a new back wheel, and it's going to cost you 600 quid.
Yeah, please don't ride home on your rims, guys. Thank you.
Have you actually used it, Andy?
Yeah, I used it at the weekend. I did make a bit of a mess because I was trying to retain the sealant that was in there, but it works. It's really good. It took me a while to figure out. I read Aaron's instructions on his review because the instructions supplied are a little bit complex, but once I got the hang of it, it did work. You still need to use some force. It still requires a little bit of welly, but it's brilliant. It
And
works
what's it
really,
called?
really well. It's called the Smart Lever.
Ah,
There is something similar in the market called Tyre Glide, and we're going to get one in and do a bit of a versus because we had quite a lot of people in the comments say, "Well, it's not a Tyre Glide. This sounds like a Tyre Glide." So they're obviously aware of that. Generally speaking, if people
Yeah.
are like you, Adam, and they've managed to master it, you don't generally go shopping for tyre lever. These types of tools, you don't go shopping for them because you know how to do it. Tom, it might be something that's come across your desk before, but I genuinely think either Tyre Glide, and we haven't tested it, but sounds like readers think it's a really good idea, or something like this could be really, really helpful, and it'll save you all those extra pennies in broken tubes.
just from my ignorant perspective, already the Smart Lever is winning for me from the marketing of the name, and it does so much. All you need to do is just call it really good lever, and I'll buy it. I don't know why Cannondale haven't called their new bike the Cannondale Really Fast. Like, suddenly I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Ridley did that, don't they? Their
Yeah,
bike is
yeah,
the Noah Fast, and anytime I think of that bike, I go, oh, it's a quick bike, the Noah Fast, isn't it? For no reason other than they've got it in the name.
The power of suggestion.
It's actually, and this is a tangent, but I went to Reading and Leeds Festival in 2012,
Both of them.
and there is an
Like
just Reading Festival. But there is an abundance of places to get water around the place, right? And this is the best marketing I've ever seen, where you have everywhere selling water. One sign said ice cold water. And I was like, well, I know exactly where I'm going. I want the ice cold water. And that's what we're doing here with the Cannondale Really Fast.
Should we get them on the phone?
I think there's money for me to be made in this as a marketing expert or a marketing
Yeah, that's where the big
consultant.
bucks are. You just come in as a consultant. You do like a couple of hours a week, and they give you £1 million.
Yeah. The painless, really good tyre lever that doesn't make your thumbs bleed. Thank you. I'll take 10, please.
It's like Ronseal, isn't it? It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Someone who doesn't need a tyre lever, how's that for a segue, is, well, hopefully Paul Sexas, because he's got a team of mechanics to do them for him. But the 19-year-old Frenchman, if you haven't heard of him, you'll have heard of him soon. Rides for Decathlon CMA CGM, which is quite a mouthful. I haven't got used to that yet. But he won his first ever pro bike race last Friday, I think, out sprinting Juan Ayuso and Joao Almeida at the Volta ao Algarve. Tom, is Paul Sexas someone that's been on your radar?
Yes, he is. I mean, he's the one that people are dubbing the next Pogacar. He's in that frame of narrative framing at the moment. He is 19 years old. He turned pro straight out of juniors last year as an 18-year-old. He was a junior time trial world champion, and I think as soon as you win a rainbow jersey as a junior, everyone will say you are the next big thing. It tends to be pretty true as well. People do go on to become very good bike riders when they're good as juniors. He is one that has been forced to mature very quickly, and we're seeing that a lot now on the world tour, where riders turn pro at 18 straight away, skipping the under 23 ranks, and are suddenly doing elite races, world tour races, expected to win. I think of Josh Tarling, who is still, he's only just turned 22 a few weeks ago. He's already a European champion, a elite world's time trial medalist, a Giro d'Italia stage winner, which is something that in the past, when he did these things when he was 21, 20, 19, people of that age were not doing.
It is very telling. I think he won the Tour de l'Avenir as well last year, it should be said. So, he's very much come from somewhere, not from nowhere, like he's been on the radar. But just kind of, I think it's quite telling that he's French and everyone's just getting very excited about him because there have been some great French riders, but in terms of male French GC hopes, since Romain Bardet and Thibaut Pinot kind of waned, there hasn't been the same level, and Paul Sexas might be the big thing. In fact, I read earlier, you'll enjoy this, that Decathlon Paul Sexas has got a dedicated press officer. That's
the sign, isn't it? Tadej Pogacar's got one.
That's how
he's already on Pogacar.
That's how many requests he's getting from, I don't know, L'Equipe, West France, all of the.
It's not even that. They do interviews with him in the Times here in the UK. Like, people are latching onto the hype, and they should. But we need to remember that this guy is still only 19 years old. He's in his second year on the World Tour, and I think this is right, he is still the second youngest rider on the World Tour, even though now he's in his second year.
He's not 20 till the summer.
Right. He's beaten only. People will be thinking, who, Tom, is the youngest rider on the World Tour? And I can tell you that is EF Education Easy Post's Mattia Agostinacchio.
Wow. That's some good Googling there.
And I tell you what, Mattia maybe wasn't expecting a shout out on the Cycling Weekly podcast this week, but there you go, Mattia. You're very welcome.
Has he won a professional bike race yet?
Didn't look that far. I don't think so.
But
But look, it took Paul Sexas a year. We'll give Mattia his time, and we'll reassess this.
I mean, it's interesting because obviously we're so used to Remco is 25 now, and we're so used to him kind of being one of the best riders in the world. But he had to go through all of this. Remember when he turned pro 7 years ago, and immediately was kind of thrown like right into the spotlight, and he's come up the other side. But we hope that Paul can kind of continue to do so too. Just less expectation on someone winning from 19 would be probably reasonably useful.
Yeah, and we know the pressure on the French as well to perform. So it will be a matter of now how well he's able to absorb that. Having his own press officer will help. They can protect him and look after him. But if he goes to the Tour this year, I'm not sure if he's planning to, but if he's performing like this, then I don't see why they wouldn't send him there. There will be a lot of hype around him, and that might be a bit overwhelming. But he seems like a very down-to-earth guy. He's got his head screwed on. He's winning bike races. So long may it last.
And we also saw Juan Ayuso win. I think Juan Ayuso's 24. I mean, he's definitely still young. And Isaac Del Toro won in the UAE. Isaac Del Toro is 22, and he already has 24 professional bike races to his name. So, the youthful revolution that was kind of foretold with Evenepoel and Pogacar and the rest isn't showing any signs of slowing down. Andy, I'm aware that we haven't heard from you in a while. Is there a young bike rider that you've got your eye on?
Well, I was more concerned about who the oldest is, to be honest. I was thinking there's all this. I'm a bit of an underachiever at 45. I've never won a bike race. Although, thank you for crediting me with chasing Chris Froome up the hill on a public podcast. That's fantastic. Who is the oldest in the World Tour? Do you know?
I can look it up for you, Andy.
Got it. On the World Tour.
Well, why don't you tee it up for us, Adam? Give us a few clues and see if we can guess it.
Okay, I just want to check that I haven't missed the cycling team in this list. Okay.
42.
So there are 2 39-year-olds on the World Tour. Both are retiring at the end of this year. Actually, one of them is retired already, so he doesn't count. The one that's retired already is Simon Clarke, who retired after the Tour Down Under. He started this year. He's 39, but he's now retired. Okay. The oldest man on the World Tour is retiring at the end of the season.
There's a name that comes to my mind. Is it Alessandro De Marchi?
It isn't Alessandro De Marchi. I think he's already retired. This is men, by the way, I should say. The women, I think you should be able to get quite easily. No.
Marianne Vos.
Older. Rides for UAE this season. Mavi Garcia is the correct answer. She is 41. She's 42. 40s. Sorry, she's 42.
She won a tour stage last year at 41, 42. I think. Yeah.
She's retiring at the end of the season as well, it should be said. The oldest man, what would you associate him with? Okay, So I used to work for Pro Cycling Magazine, which listeners may or may not know, and the editor at the time, Ed Pickering, decided to put this man on the front cover in 2021, and I think it's it was so odd for this man to be a cover star, because he's like the opposite of a cover star. He won a Tour de France stage that summer though, 2021, so that might be why. Fascinatingly, he won the points jersey at the Vuelta in 2011, which seemed insane. He won Lombardia in 2019 and San Sebastian in 2016. He's won 2 stages of the Tour de France. Is anything coming to mind?
Right. He's not on the World Tour anymore.
Right nationality, wrong person. Wout Poels, yeah. Bauke Mollema is of course the right answer. Bauke Mollema.
Bauke Mollema was the oldest on the World Tour, and Mattia Agostinacchio was the youngest on the World Tour.
I would go and get my pro cycling with Bauke Mollema on the front, because I honest, like, who's the whole point of the cover star is to kind of make someone pick it up and buy it, right? And someone's walking past the shelves of magazines in King's Cross like, Bauke Mollema.
Well, if he's winning tour stages and winning Lombardias, then he deserves to be on the front cover.
No offense, Bauke, you've had a great career, but yeah, it's just fascinating. And
you don't think he sells magazines?
I don't think Bauke Mollema is selling magazines, no. We'll move on to our reader debate segment, where we discuss the articles which got the most kind of engagement, got people talking, got our readers talking on social media and on our website. And probably the one that got the most attention last week was the story about Fabio Jakobsen and his crash at the UAE Tour. Not because he crashed, that in itself is sad for him, but not that interesting. But it's because it was perhaps caused because of hookless rims. Andy, can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I wanted to look into this from a slightly different point of view, because it's very easy to just point the finger at hooked or hookless or whatever technology you think might be the cause. And of course, we don't know. There's too many variables in this particular case. Fabio Jakobsen's coming down a hill and he's hit a rock, and the entire tyre liner and he's essentially got no tyre on his wheel anymore. Everything's come apart. It looks terrible. It looks terrifying. And I think people see that sort of thing and think, oh, why has that happened? Because we're all quite scared of tyre blowouts or something like that will cause us to completely lose control. The actual article was about the sort of another front in the debate around hookless and hooked. And I've spent the last 6 to 8 months speaking to wheel manufacturers and various people involved in wheel design, rim design, tyre providers, tyre manufacturers, sorry. And I've just been trying to get a handle on what people think of hookless and hooked and trying to get to the bottom of it.
Andy,
do you guys know
I was about to say, imagine, I mean, this sounds crazy, but imagine that Tom and I didn't know what the difference between hooked and hookless rims are. And obviously we do, I do. But if you could just...
say we didn't.
Okay, so on your car tyres, you'll have seen car tires by the side of the road. They hold their shape and they sit in a wheel, and the wheel roughly forms this sort of U shape with straight sides, and the tire sits in there, and then you put air in it and the tire pushes out on the sides of that rim and it holds itself in place. That is the very definition of a hookless system. There is nothing to retain the tire other than the pressure and the shape and form of the tire. The pressure within the tyre and the shape and form of it. In a hooked system, that's a traditional bike frame.
That's what me and Tom will have on our bikes.
Yes, so if you've got a metal rim on your bike, it's almost certainly hooked. And it's the old school approach where you'd imagine the bead of the tyre, which is the piece of wire that runs around the inside, that goes into the tyre and then is retained by a hook, on a physical hook on the inside of the wheel rim. So whereas you've got this shape in a hookless system, you've got kind of this shape in a wheel rim with a hooked system. Now, there's lots of theories about which retains the tyre best. In a hookless context, which is the straight sides, where you've got wide tyres and low pressures, there doesn't seem to be much debate that it's a really good idea. And it seems to do the job well in mountain biking, in car tyres, in motorcycle tyres, all sorts of other things. Proven technology in that sense. Where it gets a bit tricky and a bit murkier is in high pressure, small tyre situations. Road cycling. So when we see a crash like this, one of the questions that seems to come up quite a lot is, was it the hookless system? Did this tire come off because it wasn't retained by this hook? And that's what I set about trying to examine a few months ago. The general tone, the general opinion seems to be in the industry that there is guidance and you can operate a hookless system in a safe way. But because consumers are involved and because there are so many different variables, the margins are very, very tight. Does that make sense to you guys?
My question is, why would I want to run hookless over hooked? Is there an aero advantage? Is it a speed thing?
Well, when hookless first arrived, there was all sorts of claims of it being lighter and potentially easier to manufacture. Wider rims offer more aerodynamics. Wider rims offer the opportunity for the tire to take on a slightly wider form, so you get more grip. There's lots of advantages described of that system, and as I said, in mountain biking, that sort of stuff, it's quite good. When it comes down to road tires, there's this discussion about whether or not it's entirely suitable without retention, without the ability to just keep that tire mechanically hooked into that wheel rim. And you would expect to see crashes of the sort we saw where the tire has come away from the rim. You want that tire to stay in place, even if it's got no air in it. If it's in place, you're not riding around on your rim and you've got some sort of opportunity to slow the bike down, particularly if there's a problem on the front.
Again, imagine that I did know everything about this and I'm not about to look like an idiot, but what's the tire liner? What's that got to do with it? That's just a bit of foam doing what?
Yeah, the tire liners take the pressure debate in a different direction because they change the amount of pressure you need inside there anyway. But it's designed to help the tire keep its shape and, in theory, keep the tire retained. We do see quite a lot of tire liners because they're luminous green and they tend to be used on hookless systems. We are seeing a few of them pop out of the middle of rims, and it's causing some alarm. And there's some debate around whether or not that is perhaps the cause of the issue. And that keeps coming up time and time again. I think personally it's a little bit of a red herring. Obviously, putting something in that system introduces another load of variables. But basically, the basic debate seems to be about whether or not you need a mechanical way of retaining your tire in the event of a sudden loss of pressure, or you don't. And the feedback I'm getting from manufacturers is that you don't need a hook, but if you're going to be anywhere near over the limit of the ETRTO guidelines, ETRTU guidelines, which is the sort of governing body for this sort of system. They set the standards. If you're going to be anywhere near exceeding that, and there's lots of scenarios where you might exceed that, then you'd be better off on a hooked system. And I've heard that straight from the mouth of 5-6 engineers involved in wheel and tire manufacture over the last 6 months. So the scenario I put to them was, if you're at the top of Sacalobra and you have a flat and you need to chase your mates down the hill and they've gone without you, and you've got a CO2 cartridge, you're probably not going to measure how much you bang into that wheel in that moment. You're going to try and get pumped up and get gone again as quickly as you possibly can. And I put that scenario to everybody I spoke to, and they all said they would rather be on a hooked system if that was the case, because they're not sure.
You can't be precise.
Yeah, you need to be more precise.
That makes sense. So, Tom, I think the conclusion for us is we'll stay with hooks. We'll stay with hooked rims.
If you're at the top of Sacalobra and you need to chase Jonas Vingegaard down a descent,
there's a lot of ifs here.
Yeah.
But seeing as I have,
remember, you shouldn't anyway.
Yes.
But if you needed to,
hooked rims
is what the engineers that Andy has spoken to said.
For balance, there are tens of thousands of people riding around on,
and they look just like us, and we don't know who they are.
They're amongst us.
There isn't any, there doesn't seem to be any smoking gun suggesting that the industry thinks it's a terrible idea. Everybody's just suggesting to me that people really, really need to pay close attention to the guidelines, and the guidelines could do with some work, because some of the tire pressure calculators that you'll find online might warn you that it sits outside of the safety guidelines. But I did some checking on some of the tire pressure calculators, and the advice they're giving you is vastly out of sync with the advice that you'd see in the guidelines. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. I think the industry could do a bit more. The system can be safe and clearly is for lots of people, but you've got you've got to really check your tire pressures and make sure you're staying within those guidelines.
I mean, I just, again, I'm just sat here thinking, I'm not sure I've ever met anyone that has hookless in real life. You know, maybe that's just the crowd that I hang out with.
Well, I'd probably wager lots of people don't know. It's one of those things that you'll find a ton of people do really understand every aspect of their bike and know how it works. And then there's a whole ton of people that just want the cool thing with a cool logo on it that wins the aero tests and has been rated highly by our favorite journalist or something.
And that's why after this podcast recording, I'll be cycling to the cinema on my Pendleton from Halfords from about 2012.
No, it's because it's a taboo subject, really, Adam. It's like asking someone what their voting intentions are at the next
Do you
election.
have a hookless swim?
You can't, and they say, sorry, I'm not telling you that. You can't ask me that.
It's very true.
There is something quite scary about the pictures, though. When there are incidents, and we should say, Andy, I'm sure there are incidents with hooked rims as well.
For sure, yeah.
But when that kind of luminous green snake tire liner comes out, it looks like something out of not a very scary horror film, but something quite spooky. It looks like it shouldn't be there, sort of thing.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, I think, and the world of professional cycling is so kind of alien to a lot of normal people too. Like, imagine meeting someone and they had their tires glued on, like, you know, like some teams still do. It looks a lot worse than it is because it's alien to most people, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a shock to see that thing happening at the front end of your bike. You know, fork snapping, any sort of trouble at the front of that bike. We all know what happens, and you know, your face is the brake, and it's not very fun. And I think that those sorts of images do really speak to that fear that we all have of coming off our bike at some point for some reason. And then, it certainly seemed to get a fair bit of traction, and there was definitely a lot of different views on what was correct and what the fault might be and that sort of stuff. And the debate will rage on, but the industry, as far as they seem to be concerned, says if you're worried about your tire pressures and not sticking to those guidelines, you're probably best off with hookless, and that is
you're best off with
circumstance safer. Hooked. You need a hook. If you're not, if unless you're going to use some precision, keep on top of it, then you should probably just opt for the system that they seem to say is a little less, has a bigger margin of error baked in.
Moving on to our third and final segment of the podcast, it's time to talk about our heroes and villains of the week. Tom, you were very enthusiastic when I asked you before the show if you had a hero or a villain. So pray tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's another opportunity for me to shoehorn it back into
cycling,
isn't it? Really. So we're going to talk about cycling again. Track cycling, yes, back once again with some track cycling information. Mainly because my entire world last week was the inside of the Manchester Velodrome, so that's all I've really been following. My hero of the week is the aforementioned Erin Boothman. For anyone who follows the Scottish pursuiting records, she set a new women's individual pursuit record over 4 kilometers. Won the bronze medal behind
and the world record holder.
And the world record holder, who's the one that won, Josie Knight. And to do that in what was only, I think, her second ever 4 kilometer individual pursuit was phenomenal. She was 6 seconds off them. She did a 4:30. So, I mean, the percentage there is not, like, that's a very small difference between them.
And we should say she was Cycling Weekly's Rising Star of 2025, was she not?
Right, yeah, she exactly was. Yeah, she was the Rising Star of 2025, and she
so we were on the money.
Always are. We always are, Adam. Yeah, and then obviously she won the elimination race as well, as someone who only graduated from the junior ranks at the start of the season. She is now on Liverlula Jayco's development team. Very much a watch this space sort of situation. The next Paul Sexas.
I love the national championships because you get to see like road team kits on the track. It's always a bit of fun. It must look a bit incongruous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good fun, and it's also, you see the road team kits, you see your Visma Lease bike kits, your Liverlula Jayco kits, and then you also see the University of Derby and the University of Essex kits, and that is where the magic of it. It's the FA Cup, really. It's Man City versus
and
Rochdale.
Appropriate because the National Cycling Centre's slap bang next to the Etihad campus, right?
Yeah, it's very much. Yeah, I mean, you're telling me, Adam. Man City were playing Newcastle United late on Saturday night, and it risked ruining my tram journey home. But fortunately, I got out quick enough not to get caught in the football traffic.
My hero of the week, I should say, is someone we haven't mentioned so far on this podcast because we've done so much talking about other people. But my hero is a rider that I hadn't heard of before. I'll be completely honest with you. For UAE Team ADQ, called Federica Venturelli, who won the Classica d'Almeria on the weekend, and it was her first ever professional race.
Is that she's a former junior
yes,
world
she is.
champion?
She is. She's not. I've kind of shown myself up there by saying I can't remember who she is, but she's not no one. But that was her first ever professional race, and she won it. It's not bad, is it? 1 from 1.
That's very good.
Maybe if I won my first ever bike race I took part in, maybe I'd just retire there. Just be like, yeah, see ya, done it.
And then people are saying, yeah, it sounds like a nice idea to do one and done, but then people are like, well, come on, you've a bit more potential than that, mate.
You put decades of your life into this, and you've just turned up and said, now I'm going to go and work in a sweet shop in Milan or whatever.
And everyone that comes in, you say, by the way, I've got a 100% cycling record. And they say, yeah, you raced the Classica d'Almeria.
You watched the Classica d'Almeria last week? No. Okay, well, don't worry about it then. Don't worry.
Yeah, can I have 50 grams of Dolly mixture, please?
Andy, do you have a hero?
Yeah, my hero of the week. This is a relatively serious story, but about a lovely man, Simon Worley, who runs Reefham, Norfolk Cycle Workshop in Horsted near Reefham in Norfolk.
In the east of England, right, it should be said.
He runs them really
for our international listeners. Norfolk's in the east of England.
Sorry, Norfolk is in the east of England. It's very flat. It's where I hail from, and spend most of my time testing bikes. But there aren't many really good cycling businesses in Norfolk. There's a lot of cyclists, but it's a relatively big area and not so many people. And one of the best is Norfolk Cycle Workshop near Horsted, and it's run by a chap called Simon Morley. Simon went to the doctors having got off his bike and had a bit of a nagging pain, and he's sadly been diagnosed with testicular cancer. He runs a brilliant cycle workshop. You may know him from he has a seat post removing device that he shares on Instagram, and if you've ever been afflicted with that particular issue, you might have been in touch with him for that. He's sort of one of these problem solver sort of guys that goes out of his way to help people out. He needs a bit of help himself at the moment because running a cycle workshop, he's not the richest guy in the world, and he's got to close whilst he undergoes all of this treatment. And his partner, Piri, talked him into setting up a GoFundMe. He's a really, really humble guy, and I'd imagine that was painful for him even to countenance the idea of asking anybody for any money. But he has, just checking on it now, got up to £6,883. And I think the main bulk of his treatment, from what he said to me, is at least 8 weeks. That's barely 2 months' wages. I'm not sure if that's going to get him there. So he's my hero of the week. Not for the fact that he's been afflicted with this terrible disease that affects lots of other people, but just the guy's grit and the way he's sort of responded to it. He's going to close the workshop because he doesn't want to affect his customers. He doesn't want to start doing a terrible job if he gets poorly. And yeah, it's his girlfriend and friends that have rallied around him to try and help get him support.
What should people be Googling to get that, Andy?
Just look at the URL. It's gofundme.com and /Simon's Workshop versus testicular cancer.
If you just Google that as well, it will definitely get you there. Simon's Workshop versus testicular cancer.
I think so. Yeah. The Eastern Daily Press covered it as well, so you might find it on there. It's Simon Worley at Norfolk Cycle Workshop.
Lovely. Well, we wish Simon all the best, and hopefully a few of our listeners might be able to support him. I'm sure you'll be able to read more about that in Cycling Weekly sooner rather than later. But on that note, please do keep reading all the excellent stuff that we put out. There might be a bit more on Simon coming up. All of Tom's reports from the track.
Are we not doing any villains?
Would you like to do a villain? I don't have a villain.
Villains? What? This happened last time I came on here. I thought everyone got to do a hero and a villain, but everyone's too nice. They just want to do heroes.
I think it's hero or villain. And
my
villain for the second week in a row is Wiltshire County Council for breaking my bike. But
for having you've still got a broken bike as a cause of them. Okay.
Tom, would you like to do a villain?
Yeah,
Go
so
on,
I
then.
would love to do a villain. My villain is British Cycling for moving the paracycling individual pursuits to another date so that I couldn't watch them. Not so that I couldn't watch them. As a result of that, I couldn't watch them at the National Track Championships because I really like individual pursuiting, and I would quite happily sit and watch 12 hours.
Is it just too many events?
But there was less of it. Yeah, look, they can't have too many people doing 5-minute events, basically, because it takes up a lot of time in their schedule, which I'm understanding of, but not understanding of enough to not call you out as a villain on this podcast.
Off the bat. So our villains are British Cycling, scheduling department, Wiltshire County Council, and
yeah, the event organisers for the
and
track
I assume
championships.
testicular cancer as well.
Oh, testicular cancer can be the villain, can't it? For sure.
I think that's very fair.
I was going to suggest file tread tyres, but that seems somewhat geeky and completely insignificant compared to testicular cancer.
Yeah,
so we'll leave that on there.
Support Simon's campaign if you can. Also, probably check yourself out if you need to. It's very important and something that all three of us are thankfully not aware of, but something that's in the back of our minds, I'm sure. But thanks for listening, and remember to like and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you liked it, leave a review. Say something nice about us. If you didn't like it, we'd rather you didn't, because we're all thin-skinned. If you'd like us to tackle anything in the future, email cycling@futurenet.com and we'll try and get back to you. You can find us on social media too, on all the usual places. But we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
And thank you, Andy.
Thanks, chaps.
That's been Off the Back. Have a good week, everybody.